Hello and welcome to another video. So today I have my reading planner from Peanut Butter Taco, which I have been using now for 6 months, and I thought that I would do this update video slash flip through so that you can get a sense of how I have been using this the past 6 months and how I'm feeling about it now mid-year, and just kind of we'll see where we're going after that. So first I did add this Erin Condren cover. This is this bear cover that I had to the Bookworm Life Planner. It has a clear protective cover and then a thicker cardstock cover for its main cover, and with just this alone it was too floppy for me, and then if I put tabs on they would get caught by things. But the Erin Condren cover fits, which I was not expecting, and it protects the tabs, so it also makes it sturdier, and I really like that addition. All right, so how things have squared out. Okay, so first I have the bookshelves here, which some people will use to track what they've read, but I track what I've read in my monthly wrap-ups. So what I'm actually using this for is to keep a count really of how many books I read per month. So we started in August where I read 2, September I only read 1, October 4, November 1, December 6, January 2, etc. Way over here I have, if I fill in all of this and I get to this book, then I've met my reading goal for the year, so that's kind of cool. And it's interesting because I have a reading goal for the year of 2020, but this planner started in 2019, and by the end of 2020 hopefully I'll have another planner, so I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. If I'm going to just fill these books out through the end of the year and duplicate it in the planners, or if this is actually just going to be the first part of my reading goal and then I won't even get here because the second half will be in my other planner. I have no idea. Still working on that. I have these to be read books, but I would rip these out. I actually should rip out this page. I don't use this. So another thing that I do is I rip out the pages I don't use. And I've moved all of my to be read books to this notebook. I might do a flip through of that at some point, but I don't need this at all. I stopped keeping up with the reading tracker. It wasn't too helpful to me, and I hated the color scheme I chose. I don't know why I did this. I also barely use this readathons page. I would get rid of that page too if it didn't have most anticipated releases on the back. But this page is useless, so it's going. All right, there we go. I think I had one other page that I ripped out because I wasn't using it. So I filled in some anticipated releases. This monthly wrap-up belongs to July, but I recoiled the planner, so I won't use this until July. Then we get into August, and in August I started using this little notepad as a to be read list, but then I didn't stick to it at all. I started August with lots of intentions, but then I got a new job in August and had to move really quickly, and so I just didn't have the time to read at all really in August. I started using this monthly tracker to track my reading, and I still do that, but I've stopped with the really long colored lines here. Each book was color coded, and that was because I was reading too slowly. So I'd end up, and then I would add books to it. I had books that I was reading on audiobook, books I was reading for one purpose, books I was reading for another, books I was reading with my boyfriend, so many different types of books that I just thought this looked really cluttered and it got on my nerves. So I stopped doing that. Over here, I also used to write the kinds of videos, book-related videos I wanted to have. I stopped doing that. I didn't even do either of these videos. Then we have the weekly section, which actually I have used the same the whole time. So I have little blurbs of what I read that day. In August, I started color coding the name of the book to the color that I had on the beginning of the month, so that just at a glance, I could have a sense of which books I was talking about on any given day, but that didn't quite work out. Here I moved and didn't do anything. Let's see, I finally finished a book. There was a readathon happening this week, and then I just stopped and I just wrote, I don't even know what I did this week. let's see here. I use this, the dot grid at the very end. I use it to plan for readathons. So I don't have a readathon every month, so I don't always use it. But when I do have a readathon, I plan them on this dot grid page. And so in August, there was the Discover New Worlds readathon by Creating & Co. And I planned it out here. I wasn't able to participate in it after all. I started one book and then stopped, but yeah. Then the monthly wrap up, I put the books that I've read and then the books acquired here. And I only ever get to like these first few books. My goal is to like use all the spaces someday, but really I keep writing in these first few books and someday maybe I'll get over there. Then in September, there was a shift. I started using this side as a to be read list again at first, and then I changed it. And at the very end for the rest of this space, I actually journaled on reading for that month overall. Yeah, and just like a reflection. And so this was a transition period in September. Here we have a few different things going on. I stopped using the colorful lines and I just have these start and finished boxes. I made these myself, but I stopped using these eventually because, I don't know, I found some I liked more. Let's see, I'm still using this section for book-related videos in September. And then this gray here, I used to mark a read-along for Merciful Crow, which was a fairy loot book. And just like a bookish event, basically, is what that represents. And then we have the month of September, where I didn't do a ton. This was actually, these are just notes on someone's, what is it called? Annotation. I think it's Books with Chloe. Her annotation method, because I was getting ideas for that. And because I didn't use anything in September. I read one book in September. There was this TBR readathon, which like, I was in the Twitter group when someone like started to promote it and I wanted to participate, but because this was my first full month at my new job, I could not. I like had no, it was impossible. I couldn't do it. So I read one book that month, just Merciful Crow, and then I acquired some more books. And another thing I'm doing is instead of having a separate section where I have the books that I own, I know that I have this books acquired section. And it's not hard for me to flip to it. So I have the books acquired, and then when I actually read those books, I just put a check mark. So this check mark means that I have read those books. This check mark means that I haven't read those yet. And other than the books that I've gotten recently, I don't have too many extra books with me. I have a lot of books at home in Dallas at my parents' house, but as far as the books that I have with me on my person, most of them for the past 4 years were just related to college. Like I have a lot of textbooks, but not so many novels. So this books acquired section really is quite a good reflection of all the books I own because most of them have been acquired within the past few months. Then as you can see here, I started with like one little book that I wanted to read and then a reflection on the month. This was a better reading month. Here we go. So I marked the release date of Rebel by Marie Lu. I still haven't read it yet. And I also made note of when fall break was because this is a time when I expect to be able to read more and I want to have that like on my calendar. At the beginning of this month, I was still using these squared half box thingies that I designed. But then I started switching to this new started and finished reading stickers from Creating & Co. I like them a little better. They're not as big, but they're cute. I don't know. I really like them. And so the highlight of October was Fireborn. I finished Serpent and Dove, The Girl the Sea Gave Back, and We Hunt the Flame in October. And I didn't like any of them. So October started really rough, and then at the very end, I read Fireborn, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It's by Rosaria Munda. It was such a good time. Here we have more reflections. During the week, if I finish a book, then I put one of these half box stickers, also from Creating & Co. that says when I finish the book, and then my star rating. And then my monthly wrap up for books books acquired. I made a large book depository order in October because I was going to create in the Believe in the Impossible readathon hosted by Gavin from, I forget the name of his channel. I think it used to just be his name, and then I think he changed it. But anyway, I was going to participate in that, and then I didn't. I can't remember what happened, but I didn't. I also haven't read most of those books either. Then we get to November, and November was a super slow reading month. I had a lot of plans, but then I got super busy. I remember in November the trimester ended for my school, and we had to do like finals and comments on students, and there was a lot of like extra work being done in November as we wrapped up the trimester. And so that meant that I had like no time to read, and then over Thanksgiving break I was just exhausted, and I spent a lot of time with my boyfriend and his family and like just playing board games and stuff, so not a ton of reading got done. I read one book and I started 2 others in November. Look, 2 whole weeks where I did not do anything. Here is my whole planning for the Believe in the Impossible readathon. And I almost bought all of, I don't have any middle grade books, so I almost bought all of these books all at once, and I'm glad I didn't. I didn't have the money to buy all of them all at once, so I did half of the books in one book depository order, and then planned to buy the other half of the books at another time. And I'm glad I didn't do that because I haven't even read the books from the first half order yet. But this is where I would have, these are the books I was planning to read. And then here we have the one book I finished, and then the rest of the books that I received, 2 of which I've since read. Then December was a good reading month because of Christmas break. I ultimately read something like 31 books in 2019, and my new goal for 2020 is 49. So yeah, let's see. Things got really wild over here. So I finished reading 2 books that I had started in November at the very beginning of December because I wanted to be able to focus on my readathon books. So I finished Song of the Crimson Flower and The Beautiful, and then I started The Last Wish. Now, I was still working Monday through Thursday. So, well, Monday through Wednesday. I think Thursday classes had ended for winter break, but I was still finishing up Christmas gifts. So Monday through Thursday, all I did was read The Last Wish whenever I could. Then I read a book a day basically for the next 3 days. And the last thing I didn't finish reading was The Hobbit. So I almost completed all the books on my TBR for that month, but I didn't quite get there. In December, I also read Girls of Paper and Fire, A River of Royal Blood, and Winterwood. I started reading The Hobbit, which I have since DNF'd, and then I started reading Renegades by Marissa Meyer, which I haven't given up on yet. It's just slow going. So we've got this, and then this looks really cool. I'm so proud of how all these line up because of how many books I finished this week. That was a fun time. Then again, this is me planning for the Treat Your Shelves readathon, and I almost checked them all off, just The Hobbit. 6 books read. This is the farthest I've ever gotten, is this blue book. And then a lot of books acquired because while I was in Dallas, I went to Half Price Books and I bought a lot of books. I have a whole haul video on that. Then this situation, which again is weird because I did the goal setting for 2020, which means my goal assessment is technically, like, this is associated with 2019 and this is 2020. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I might just leave this completely blank and put my goal assessment in the new planner, but we'll see how that works out. Goals that I ended up setting: finish this planner, off to a good start, read 49 books, complete the Creating & Co reading challenge, participate in Creating & Co readathons, read 2 books from the Wheel of Time series, have a readathon with books that my boyfriend has recommended, like just my own personal readathon. I may or may not generalize some prompts to put on this channel. I haven't decided yet. That will be happening in the month of November, I've decided. But yeah, more on that to come. And then bonus, I want to catch up on my Cassandra Clare books. I used to follow the Shadowhunter books religiously in high school. They were my favorite books ever. And then I stopped. And so the last thing I read was Lord of Shadows, the first in the Dark Artifices. Is it the Dark Artifices? Wow. Yes, I think it is. Mortal Instruments, Infernal Devices, Dark Artifices. Yeah. And then I started, no, the last thing I finished was Lady Midnight, and then I started Lord of Shadows, and then I never finished it. So I want to go back, reread Lady Midnight, read Lord of Shadows, read Queen of Air and Darkness, and be ready for the release of Chain of Gold in March. Those are my goals. And then probably some of the short story anthologies. Then we get to the end, the last month in this flip through, January, the 6th month in this planner. And it was good. I didn't read a ton in January, but I found one of my favorite book series. So in January, I started to get serious about a goal of reading one book a week. That's my goal. And so I'm doing it so far. I've done it for 3 weeks in a row. I'm very excited about it. I'm very proud. And that's helped a lot because I resubscribed to Scribd, and Scribd gives me access to a lot of audiobooks, and I'm able to do a lot of listening on the weekends when I'm catching up on chores, like doing laundry and cleaning and stuff, that I'm not able to do as easily during the week. And I find that sometimes if I'm really stressed, I can't focus on the words of a book, but I can listen to an audiobook. Like, it's easier for me to follow a story in an audiobook than it is on print. So because I'm often really stressed during the work week, an audiobook is just really good for me to get some reading in. And I'm also going to the gym more frequently. I'm at like once or twice a week right now. And while there, I'm also listening to audiobooks. And so that has helped me like get through a couple more books than I otherwise would have. And that in part started because I read A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury in January, and they are so good. Like, they aren't literary masterpieces or anything like that. Like, I know they aren't good books. Like, I don't know. They're not like artful books, you know? Like, they're wordy and they're longer, I think, than they have to be. And some of the characters aren't always the best, but like, it was so entertaining and it gave me so many feelings, and I was so excited the whole time I was listening to these books. Like, it got to a point when I was reading A Court of Mist and Fury that I was just sitting on my couch for like 3 hours doing nothing but listening to this book. It was so good. I had such a good time reading these books. I'm so excited. And then unfortunately, because I read 2 like more popular books back to back in January, Scribd is now letting me access A Court of Wings and Ruin until February. So I'm waiting for that to happen. I also decided to DNF The Hobbit. I just really didn't want to read that book, so I decided not to. It's the first book I have DNF'd since like August, I think. And then I also started reading An Ember in the Ashes. Over here, I have started listing not my video ideas, but my actual to be read list, the things I hope to read in that month. And in January, I didn't do any of it. I didn't get to any of those. I'm making better progress in February though. So still using it the same way. I changed the way I do the weekly headers just to mix things up. And I started to use this book washi tape from Creating & Co. to clear off the days where I didn't do any reading to write about, because I think it makes it look nice. And so I had fun doing that in January. And then I also have this weekly read sticker also from Creating & Co., which I really like because it lets me focus on like, I need to finish a book this week so that it can be my weekly read. You know, I don't know. It helps me prioritize when and how much I want to read. And then the last week of January goes into the first couple of days of February, which is when I finished An Ember in the Ashes. So that's officially on my February read list, which is fine because I read most of it in this weekend, which was the first couple of weeks in February. And yeah, then we have the last bit of books acquired, the couple of books that I read that month, and we are all caught up. So February, no reflection yet. A to be read list that's looking more promising. A readathon happening. I did mark when Court of Wings and Ruin would be available. Books that I've started to read. And then this is the first week, right? I'm filming this on a Monday, and we'll see how this goes. So that is the first 6 months of my planner. I want to update you on the very back. So I haven't finished this because I'm going to do this at the end of this planner. A standout stack. This is where I'm collecting my 5-star reads. The way my reading system works, 5 stars, right? 3 stars means like neutral. It wasn't the worst thing I'd ever read. It wasn't very exciting. Right in the middle, 3 stars. If I liked it quite a bit, but it wasn't like super exciting, then it's 4 stars. 5 stars means that I loved that book and it gave me so many feelings, and it made me very excited. Like if I put that book down, I could not stop thinking about it. That's what it takes for it to be 5 stars. 2 stars and is like, it had some moments, but overall I was pretty bored. And then 1 star, I haven't given anything 1 star. I don't know where that line is, because I feel like if I'm going to give it 1 star, I probably wouldn't even finish the book. So we'll see how that goes. So that's how my standout stack is shaping up. Then I filled in some book to movie adaptations that are coming up. I don't know which of these I will or will not watch. I did watch The Witcher season 1, but not the rest of this yet. I haven't filled in any quotes because I don't know what I want to put here. This is how my mini book reviews are looking. I am pretty good at keeping up with this. I think it's fun. This is enough space. Like, I don't like writing full-length book reviews. That's just not something I'm into. I know how I felt about a book, and I'm not... Like, I know other people like to read book reviews. Like, I like to read book reviews, so it makes sense that I might also contribute to those, but I don't like writing them. I just don't have enough to say. Like, I'm not good at formalizing my thoughts about a book. I really read for overall, like, feeling. I don't read critically most of the time. Sometimes I do. Sometimes something actually stands out to me, but for the most time, I'm just reading to have a good time. So I'm not interested in writing full-length book reviews. So these little thought sections are enough for me, and I really like this section. I am running out of space. I have 10 more spaces, and then I ran out of space. Here, if you saw my setup video, I did set up a few pages that I've since ripped out because I wasn't using them. There was a books owned list, an ARCs list for like advanced readers copies from NetGalley, and I think those were it. So I ripped those out because I wasn't using those pages, and now I'm probably going to just bring these mini book reviews and fill up the rest of these dot grid pages with that, and use it as extra space. Then at the very end, I put my reading challenges for 2020, and this is something that, even though this planner ends before 2020, I'm going to keep updating in here. So I have a few challenges, mostly prompted by the stickers that Creating & Co. was making for the reading prompts at the beginning of 2020. She made stickers for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, which I have here. The Creating & Co. Reading Challenge, which I have here. And then the A to Z Challenge. So I'm just filling those in as I read them. And then at the very end, I still have my pen test page, which is the same because I use the same pens for the most part. And then at the very back of this, we have my stickers. So this is what I'm keeping in here these days. This is a mini journaling card from Creating & Co. that I keep back there just for decoration. Oops. This was a sticky note meant to remind me of something, but I don't remember what. This is to update the reading challenge sticker for February, the readathon bookshelf down here. That's what these are for. I have my started reading stickers, my finished reading stickers, my large finished reading stickers, my weekly read stickers, readathon stickers, and then I keep these on hand just in case I want to pick them back up sometime. But I have the file so I can reprint them if I need to. And that is everything. So that's the first 6 months in this planner. When I finish it, I will do one more on the last half. And we are done. So thank you for watching. If you liked what you have seen, please be sure to like, comment, and or subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.